G'day YouTubers, this is a short video on connecting up the Minn Kota iPilot link to the Humminbird that I've got in the boat now. I didn't have one at first, and in fact I didn't have the link feature to the iPilot at first. I've swapped the board out inside the control head, now have the link feature there. Since I had the Humminbird it just made sense, and I'm connecting them up. It should improve things a lot. I'll be able to follow the bottom contours, spot lock on different positions marked on the sounder itself, so it offers a whole heap of new features that weren't available to me in the past. So let's just have a look at the installation and then what it's able to do for me. I've got a hole drilled up there just below the power cords for the Minn Kota, and I've drilled it just large enough for the plug of the Humminbird Ethernet cord to go through. Now there's a ply core in that bulkhead. I'm going to hot resin that ply so that moisture can't get into it and it won't rot. If you've got a fiberglass boat, it pays to keep some fiberglass resin on hand. There's three basic types of resin. There's the polyester resin, the vinyl ester resin and the epoxy resin. The majority of trailer boats are made with polyester resin, which is the cheapest of the three. Grab yourself a bit of polyester resin, make sure you buy the hardener to go with it because it won't harden without the hardener, and you can use that for any patch-up work you need to do on the boat. Now I've got some resin put out there in the centre of that old fishing line spool, just for want of some container to mix it in, and I'm going to put a bit of extra catalyst in there to make sure it goes off fairly quickly, and the idea of that is it stops it soaking too much into the ply and seals it better. I'll have to put the camera down to do that, but what you do, as I said, mix it up, put a little bit of extra catalyst in and smear it all around on the ply, make sure it's well and truly coated so that it seals the ply against any moisture getting in. When I put the wire through and I've got everything all hooked up and secured with zip ties, I'll also fill the hole with some sticker flex just to make sure. I've got some hot resin in that. I don't know whether you'll be able to tell the difference or not, but that'll go off, and tomorrow I'll stick the wire through and get it all positioned with zip ties and then put some sticker flex in there just to double seal it. I've cut this piece of scrap marine ply to the size I need to mount the Humminbird network hub and the NMEA to Ethernet converter, the Humminbird converter. So before I mount this in the boat, I'm going to give it a spray of varnish. I haven't got any marine varnish at the moment, but any varnish will do because it is under the dashboard, but I just simply won't put wood in the boat unless it's had some sort of coating on it to give it some protection from the sea air. Not hard to do and doesn't take long. Okay, that's the bit of ply. I didn't cut it any longer than I absolutely needed it. It's right to the edge of this, the Ethernet switch, and I mounted the NMEA to Ethernet adapter on the bottom of it. So now I just got to bolt that onto a lip. It's on the piece of aluminium that holds the cover plate for where the Garmin used to be, and the Hummingbird's now mounted. I'll bolt that to the lip of that and probably put some sticker flex on it as well, just to make sure it doesn't come loose. And that's it, done. That's the power cord for the Humminbird Ethernet switch, and I'll just put some ends on that, the heat shrink tined. Now I don't normally like these spades as ends, I prefer the circles, but stupidly I used the last circles and forgot to order some more. So this is all I've got. And I do want to get the job finished. It will do the job, but I would have been happier had I had the circles to put on it, but never mind, it will work. So I'm just going to attach that now. Well, there's my little fuse box there. I've just run the lead for the Humminbird switch into that and used up my last fuse position for it. So if there's any more electronics going to this boat, I'm going to have to find somewhere else to mount a fuse box, and that is getting pretty difficult to do. Oh well, she's pretty well fitted out now. I don't expect I'll be wanting to put any more on, so that should work out very nicely. I bent this little bracket up out of some aluminium I had around. It was, I think, 80 mils wide. It's about a 3 mil thickness, and I just cut it the length I needed. So what's going to happen is that's going to sit on there like that, and then the bracket is going to fit in there like that.
and then this will fit in up there on top of it, so it's like a little shelf. I'm not going to bolt it to it. I'm just going to fit it in there as a shelf because things are so tight in there that I need to move things around a little bit if I want to be able to plug anything else into it. So if I bolt it in, it's just going to be too hard, and having it there as a shelf, I don't think there's any way it's going to move, because this cover here is so tight in there, it only just fits anyway, so even if it does move a little bit, the cover's not going to let it fall anywhere. So I'm going to pop rivet that on to the existing channel, because once it's on it, the shelf itself won't need to come off. That can be a permanent fixture. So I'll put the camera down and get that done. But that's it. Got some pop rivets in there along the bottom. You can probably just see them, not that it matters. 3 pop rivets to hold that in, and that shelf's nice and firm now. I'll be able to sit that up in there. I'll put these wires on, need 2 hands again. I'll get the camera going again once I've got it in place. And I brought the Ethernet cable for the Minn Kota around through the bulkhead, and I've gone across the boat on the inside. I could have gone out this side and kept the inside of the boat neat and gone across on the other side, but the winch is there, and I wanted the least amount of wire in the anchor well as possible, just in case it comes loose from the wall. I don't want it getting tangled up in the anchor chain and ripped out of the Minn Kota. That would just spoil my whole day. So anyway, it comes around there, goes down through the side pocket, out through the back in through one of those holes there, and up to the Ethernet switch, which is mounted on that shelf there. Still a couple of wires to go into it, but that's basically where it's going to sit. It's pretty secure there. Once the cover goes on, there's nowhere that can move to. Well, I've changed my mind about how I'm going to mount all this. I had it all mounted on this ply, ready to put on the aluminium bracket. I actually had it in place, and when I went to screw the wires in, I found that the fitting that goes from the Helix doesn't fit onto this. You actually need a second adapter cable to go from this to the Helix, because the end on the Helix, on the wire from the Helix, is the same as this end. So I need another 2 plugs that go into here, one to go into the Helix wire and one to go into here. So how ridiculous is that? You know, to me, that's just a way to rip more money off the consumer, making you buy 2 cables to go into this, whereas this is supposed to be the hub for these things. I can understand the idea of mounting your Helixes remotely. You do need an extension cable anyway, but surely they could have made one of these plugs to go straight into a Helix, or alternatively sell a plug that fitted the Helix that also fitted that. Either one would have done, but anyway, doesn't matter. I had to buy another cable, and because the ends on them are proprietary, they can charge a fortune for them, which is what I find to be the rip-off, but nevertheless, it is what it is. And having to buy another cable gives me a lot more cable to play with, and I found that I can actually mount this outside the behind the dash area and have a lot more room. The wires won't be as crowded, and if necessary I'll still have a bit of room behind the dash if I ever need it. So, cutting these boards to fit, I'm going to mount the switch on this one and cut this one to mount the NMEA converter, and I'll varnish these boards of course and then sticker flex them into the boat on the driver's side under the gunnels, where these are going to sit quite happily. Anyway, that's today's project. Change of plans. The bracket's not entirely wasted because I'm going to screw one of the little Sea-Talk NG T-pieces onto that. It needs somewhere to live, so it's going on the aluminium bracket that I put on behind the dash. Alright, best get to work. I won't film it because I'm just cutting. Show you what I've done when I'm finished. I'll just take you in to see where I mounted these. You won't recognise it if I don't lead you in here under the steering and up in under the gunnels. There's the Ethernet switch all mounted up there. Everything's plugged into that except the Humminbird, which I'm still waiting for a lead to connect. And that's the NMEA 2000 converter just mounted under there. Putting them out here in under the gunnels certainly freed up a lot of room that I was going to use in the area behind the dashboard. If necessary, in the longer term, if I decide that I need more switch panels or fuse panels, I'll at least still have somewhere to put them behind the dashboard. Mounting switches out here on the dashboard might be another matter, but hopefully I don't need any more. A couple of things I would like to be able to turn off independently. If it can't be done, it can't be done at the moment, and the main reason I'm not trying to turn them off independently is just plain and simple a lack of switch panel points, or lack of space to put a switch panel. Yeah, that's it, all done, ready to try out and see if it does what I hope it will do for me.
The beauty of this setup is that you can cruise around and mark some potential spots that you want to fish, decide which one you want to fish, then put the cursor on the Humminbird over that spot and hit go to and spot lock on it, and then the Minn Kota will automatically take you back to that spot and lock you in position. This makes it a lot easier to get on the spot that you saw on the sounder than it is without it.
I'm under control of the Minn Kota now, so I'm going to get a rod ready.
Well, that's it for this video. The idea might not be for everyone, but I think the other manufacturers are seeing the value of it, because while Humminbird have kept their Minn Kota communications proprietary and won't allow other GPS manufacturers to make use of it, all the other manufacturers are now bringing out their own trolling motors and their own proprietary communications protocols so that they can do the same thing. So obviously they think there's a market there for it and that anglers are going to find it useful. I'm certainly happy with the setup I've got. And thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Hope you got something out of it. Until next time, good fishing.